This review is brought to you in part by Ryder's Hobby Shops, where the fun begins. Stop in to one of Ryder's 2 convenient Michigan locations where you'll find a full range of the latest hobby products, supplies, parts, tools, and paint. This review covers the 66 Ford Fairlane 427. It's a 125 scale kit from AMT, number 1263. Now, the 66 Ford Fairlane 427 was a purpose-built, lightweight performance car that was meant more for the drag strip than the street. Now, those cars were built with almost no extra options, which would have added weight and really been no use on the drag strip. Now, AMT has released nearly a dozen versions of the 66 Fairlane, with the 427 kit coming along in 1994, but it has some details that aren't period correct for the 427 cars. I'll try to touch on that later on. And I built my model as a fresh from the dealership car with no markings, just like the original kit number 6180. Now, if the decals for the emblems are to be used from the sheet there, then the molded emblems that are on the body should be removed. Scrape them off and then sand them smooth now this kit was re-released in 2021 with fresh decals and has about 106 parts molded in white, chrome clear, and clear red. It's aimed at the intermediate builder and it has no major issues. The final measurements when you're done, about 7 3/4 inches long, 2 1/4 inches high, and almost 3 inches wide. Here are the contents of the kit. As you can see, the windows are fairly clear and the parts are pretty basic. And some things make it a little easier, like the stub frame in front of the floor pan there. So it's not a hard build, but it's a nice build. It's a lot of detail into the kit. Here are the expanded decals for this kit release, and as you can see, very colorful. A lot of sponsor markings on here, and wow, if you wanted to, put some drag slicks on this thing and add your decals to it, it'd be quite impressive as well. But you may need some setting solution to get some of the bigger decals to settle in on panel lines, etc. As you can see on the right side here, I did have one issue that was kind of a showstopper. But I contacted Round 2, and they sent me out some replacement parts within about a month, and that's how long they said it would take. So kudos to them for having a good part replacement and fulfillment system. Construction starts with the fan and pulley system. Here you can see that the fan was painted gloss black, and the pulleys are a flat black or a gloss black, as well as the belts themselves being a flat black. You can see some gold tone on the steel colored alternator there that's added to this assembly, and it goes together rather nicely. Just make sure that you clean up any paint or chrome plating from parts that you want to glue together. The transmission section comes in 3 pieces. That's 2 pieces, the 2 halves, which is basically painted aluminum in the bell housing area there. Then you've got steel colored transmission, along with separate shifter rods, which you can detail separately for a little more enhanced detail and a more authentic look. It's also the bottom half of that bell housing is painted gloss black. Assemble the rest of the parts here for the main engine block, etc., and paint those Ford blue, and then we'll put those together, except for the manifold, which was painted aluminum. Now gather up the accessory pieces here. You see the valve covers are chrome, the distributor is tan with an aluminum advance, and then of course you got a steel colored fuel pump. The coil is a semi-gloss black with a chrome strap on it. And get these pieces ready and we'll assemble them, and there's no real issues. The oil filter being in white goes into place with the steel top. Now we'll get the parts out here for final assembly of the engine. The water pump is Ford blue, and there's a flat black hose. The exhaust manifolds are steel colored and the carbs are painted gold. Now the air cleaner is molded in chrome, but it should be painted aluminum with a white element, and the starter is black and aluminum with a gold cover. Here is a shot of it from the right side of the engine, and it's
It could be a model in its own right. It's nicely detailed. The inner fender panels on this model are separate, so we're going to paint that flat black. The coil is the same, and the A-arm there is painted semi-gloss black. And now here you see the red pointers there indicating the front sway bar. And of course drag cars didn't have sway bars because there's no curves on the drag strip. Now locate these pieces to begin working on the front of the chassis, the engine bay there. Now all the parts are painted flat black except for the spindles, which are steel colored. And I forgot the firewall in this picture, but it's also flat black and Wimbledon white. And next we'll be assembling these pieces. You see that the exhaust has been painted steel color for the pipes and aluminum on the canisters. Also, we'll add the tie rod assembly up front there. That's painted steel color, and the transmission cross member is black, and the fuel tank is painted aluminum also. So far, all the chassis parts have positive locations and gluing points, and now we'll work on the rear end pieces here. And the drive shaft and the springs are painted steel. The shocks I painted them blue, and the rear end gets painted black, with the third member having a brown primer. So this is the assembled underbody, and you're going to want to make sure that you had scraped the paint off before you glued the pieces in place, and let that dry thoroughly. So gather up the parts to work with the engine compartment here. The radiator support and battery are flat black. The horns and the washer fluid bag, they're semi-gloss black. Now the upper radiator hose is a flat black, and the master cylinder gets painted steel with a gold cap. And now we'll work on the interior, and most of the parts here are painted semi-gloss black. Now the front seats they're in two pieces, so they're painted as I mentioned semi-gloss black as well, and the floor gets painted a flat black. The boot on the shifter is shown in place, and it was painted flat black, and the knob gets a semi-gloss black color. And here are the rest of the pieces to finish up the interior, and we're going to point out some of the issues with 427 cars. All these pieces are painted semi-gloss black with some chrome trim, and there's a decal for the instrument details, but it's kind of nondescript, so I printed one off of a picture of it from the internet, cut it out, and glued it in place. Now the wood grain on the door panels is molded in the wrong place, as these door panels were based on another version of the car. So also these 427 cars did not have radios, which this dash has, and I left it black so it wouldn't really show, because it's kind of difficult to remove easily. Now we'll take a look at these tires. The Redline tires are nice, but for the Fairlane they're too wide, and nobody would spend money on Redline tires for a drag strip car because they just tear them up after a few runs. So I discarded those and went with some from my parts box. And so when using the tires, they're smaller, and the two-piece wheels that are with the kit, they need to be sanded down at the glue points to narrow them. And then the completed wheels and tires with the hubcaps shown in place here. Note that the wheels, they emulate a picture of the original 427 car, and it also shows there's a center emblem on the grille missing from this model, but it may belong to different versions, like in the GT kit. So some have it and some don't. Next we'll work on the body. Some of the script needs to be removed, and of course those braces from the windows and the engine bay. Also the Fairlane script there, that's not correct, but there are decals that are. So go ahead and scrape and sand that off. There's also some parting lines for the kit in the C-pillar and along the ridges of the fenders. And you see here at the back end there's the Ford script that I would remove and sand smooth. Here you see the hood and the scoop, and that scoop goes into the recessed area on the hood. I'll also note that there are hood pins on this. This is a full race car, so that hood lifts off after the pins are removed. For a proper look, after you put that hood scoop into place and glue it in there in the recess, there's going to be a seam which you're going to want to fill with a little bit of putty and then sand that smooth for a nice finish. Well, here are the lower rocker moldings, and you're going to remove the the chrome plating there so that you can glue those below the doors along the lower body. The interior of the vehicle is painted flat black, all of it, and then the windshield and the backlight are put into place with some white glue. Now we can add the wheels to the chassis spindles, and you can mate that chassis to the body, locating those mounting points and using some good strong glue there. The exterior of the car, of course, the hood as well as the outer wheels there, you see, that the body color for that is called Wimbledon white. It's a Ford color, and you'll either have to custom mix that with bright white and a drop or two of primrose yellow and black, or you can get that from Duplicolor and their perfect match paint line. Now with the blacked out grill and the recesses dry after we've worked on those, going to install them, of course you got to scrape that chrome and paint, but I also found an issue there, and it was necessary to remove the frame horns from the radiator support for clearance for the grill, so that I got a nice flush fit. I don't think that was a build error, but you're going to have to watch for that, and you should test fit before you try to glue it in place. I gave the chrome trim the Molotow chrome pen treatment, and when I put the rear bumper in, the detail started to look pretty nice. Adding the script decals there and the body decals overall, that was the end of it, and so is this. These are the parts that I had left over. I just used some of the script decals, and there's looks like other version parts here from different versions of this kit. Well, there you have it. This nice looking kit, when you're finished with it, lends itself well to an intermediate builder. Anybody with half a dozen kits on their repertoire can probably put this kit together very nicely. We've given you some pointers about it being a special purpose vehicle and model, and you can make a fairly authentic representation. You see it here in minty fresh, right from the dealer motif, but you can also do some real nice detailing, like radiusing the fender wells in the back, and then adding some slicks and turning this into the drag model and using some of those really colorful decals. So if I were you, I'd buy it and put it on my shelf. Well, we hope you like this premium model kit review, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon in the lower right of any of our reviews, and you can find us on Facebook or our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks.